What's going on, gamers? It's your boy Diggs Gaming. Welcome back to Off Hunting's Gaming News. I'm by myself tonight and I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I told you there was going to be a lot to talk about this week, and boy was there. And I'm just going to start off with the new PlayStation 5 update. Now, this update was in beta for a while, and now it's come to the PlayStation 5. And it's not the biggest update. It's not like the last one, but there were a lot of things that were added to the PlayStation 5 in this update. One of those being an update to the parties. You can have open and closed parties for friends that you want to join. Open parties means any of your friends can join. Closed parties mean that you have to invite your friends into this party. Updates to remote play in the PlayStation app. You have updates on languages. I'm going to leave a link down below in the description box if you're listening this on YouTube, so you can check out what was added. But the big thing that PlayStation added at the bottom of the blog post explaining all this is the fact that VRR, or variable refresh rate, is coming to the PlayStation 5 in the next few months. Oh my god, this is big because VRR was something that was promised when the PlayStation 5 was being promoted, and now we're starting to see that it is coming soon. People have been waiting for this. Now, VRR just makes for a better gaming experience as it cuts down on pacing issues, screen tearing, lag is reduced, makes graphics look crisper. It just makes for a better gaming experience, and this is just where gamers are going to erupt when this finally comes to the PlayStation 5. And we knew it was coming because Sony had been updating their TVs to make sure that it will support this. And the best part about this is PlayStation has announced that VRR will be on games that don't necessarily support it. So this is really something to look forward to. And once it is on the PlayStation 5, people are just going to eat this up. On to our next story, which is PlayStation has bought Haven Studios. Now, Haven Studios, this is the company that was created by Jade Raymond, who worked on the Assassin's Creed series when Assassin's Creed was at its best. And really, this one got people talking because it had this whole conversation of PlayStation likes to do organic growth with the companies that they buy. And this is definitely a case of this was definitely organic growth because PlayStation has been helping out Haven Studios. Now, Haven Studios has not made a game yet, but I watched a video with, I believe it was Mixstick, that was talking about how this is very similar to Firesprite, because Firesprite is basically the same thing with Haven. Hasn't been around very long, doesn't really have a game profile, but it's got talent, and that's what PlayStation's looking for. They buy talent, and Haven Studios definitely has talent, and PlayStation is helping out with their multiplayer game, and they must have liked what they're doing, so that's why they just went ahead, bought the studio, so that when this game does come out and Haven Studios starts to gain a name, it's not going to be more money that they would have to throw to buy the company. So really, this was a smart move by PlayStation, and I do trust PlayStation when it comes to this because they do not mess around with these studio buyouts. When they buy a studio, it means that they trust them and they believe that they will make great games. So I trust them with this, and I can't wait to see when Haven Studios finally shows off the game that they've been working on. Next up, the developer for Gran Turismo 7 has responded to the backlash that came after the update that, one, knocked Gran Turismo 7 offline for 30 hours, and two, cut down on the credits that were earned in certain races. And basically, first things first, they're going to give away 1 million free credits to the gamers that were affected, and you have until April 25th to get those credits. And then they have updates that are coming in the beginning of April, which will increase rewards in world circuits and online races. They're going to add in some endurance races to missions, going to increase the limit of non-paid credits in players' wallets from 20 million to 100 million. And then later on, they're going to have more updates that, first things first, that's going to make it able so that you can sell your cars that you buy. And this is something that was in basically every single Gran Turismo game, and a lot of people were not happy that they did not have the ability to sell cars. So that is coming back to the Gran Turismo games. Now, that's not in the updates that are coming in April. That's going to be later. But the fact of the matter is, those are going to be back, and this is a good response to the criticism that they got that led to the Metacritic score being as low as it got. Last time I checked, it was as low as 1.5, and I don't know if it got any lower than that, but this was a good response, and hopefully they can keep doing more to just make up for what was a terrible week for Gran Turismo 7, which is a shame because Gran Turismo 7, I mean, I've heard from a lot of fans, it's a really good game, and it's just a shame that it got caught up in this, bud. Hopefully good things will continue to happen, even though it took just a terrible week, one of the worst weeks I've ever seen from a game in general for this to happen. Next up, I had mentioned that we might see some stuff coming out of GDC this week. Well, we had an update on the PlayStation VR 2 where developers got their first look at the hardware, and a Valve veteran went to Twitter to say, had one of those VR moments today playing in the new PlayStation VR 2, you know, where the world just feels different when you return. And that just sounds incredible. Now, VR, it's still trying to make its name in the video game market. It's basically, you still have some gamers that just think this is going to be a passing phase and that will laugh at VR, and I've seen it. But if Sony can really show what VR is capable of with the PlayStation VR 2, you're going to get a lot of people wanting to try it out. Now, I will admit I'm not big on VR, but that's just me. But I do think VR could make its way into the video game market and be a good part of the video game market. I really think it could. It just depends on how it's used and the technology. And it really sounds like PlayStation's doing a great job with this. So I want to see what happens when consumers start to get their hands on this, when we start to see more from PlayStation VR 2, when we start to see more games. And yeah, this could really be a big hit for PlayStation. And I can't wait to see when more information drops on this. All right, I promise this is the last thing from Sony. Now, Bloomburg is reporting that Sony will reveal Project Spartacus as soon as next week. Now, remember, this is the revamp of PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, where PlayStation Now name is going to be dropped and absorbed into PlayStation Plus, where there's going to be 3 tiers, and you will have the ability to play classic PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and PSP games. Wow, this is pretty big. Everybody's been waiting for when Sony is going to announce this. Now, 2 things I want to talk about. One, this is probably going to be in a blog post. I don't really see a state of play happening. That happens more with games than it does with, apps and stuff like that. So I really just don't see Sony developing a state of play for this. I just don't see that happening. So just expect that in a blog post with frequently asked questions at the bottom of it. And then the second thing, if you're expecting day-and-day release with Sony first-party games, then you are in for a major disappointment because they have clarified this time and time again. It's not going to happen. And Sony is not Microsoft. They cannot afford to do that. Remember, the reason Sony has gotten as big as it has is because of the video game market that they have. That's the reason it's gotten as big as this company has, because the video game industry, for them, is what makes this company as good as it is. And it's not that way with Microsoft. So they can't really afford to do that. But what they could do is they could have third-party games, third-party AAA games, day-and-day release. Now, we'll see what happens with that. We haven't even seen the announcement yet. But really, a lot of people have been waiting for this announcement. And the fact that it could come soon, which does line up, the original report stated that it was coming in spring of this year. Well, guess what? It's spring. And it's coming around the time when we are going to see it. And it really does fit. And we just got to watch out in the next coming weeks. Like I said, it could be as soon as next week. Next up, the FTC has requested more details on the Activision Xbox deal. And the CEO of Activision Blizzard is urging the shareholders to vote in favor of this deal. Now, this is pretty much what should be expected because, again, this was a $68 billion buyout that Microsoft is doing, buying Activision, and really just not shocked by this. I mean, the FTC is going to go this over with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, make sure this is not going to create a monopoly in the video game industry, making sure that Microsoft is not just going to take advantage of gamers after this deal is going to go through. And again, just expect this deal to go through. I would be shocked if this deal did not get through. And we're just heading into the next phase of that. And this is just something where the FTC, they just want to make sure this deal is not going to create any problems in the video game industry. And from what Xbox has been saying about this deal, it doesn't sound like it will. Now remember, if Xbox goes back on what they were saying, especially with Call of Duty still being a multi-platform game, if they go back on that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble with the FTC. And you really don't want to be in trouble with the FTC because they could literally gut the company. Now, it's not the only thing we heard from Activision this week, as Activision has had another lawsuit filed against them for harassment and discrimination. And this is just unbelievable that Activision is still in the news for all the wrong reasons, even after the announcement that Microsoft was going to buy them. This is just getting ridiculous at this point, just how much trouble Activision has gotten in the past few years. And I don't know when it's going to stop. It's just not good. It's not a good look. And really, Microsoft is going to have an uphill battle trying to get the Activision name okay in the minds of gamers again. And one more thing from Activision. Raven Software has sent out a letter to Microsoft about the potential union that they are trying to form. They have been trying to form a union at Raven Software, and Activision's basically been trying to stop it. And basically what Microsoft said is that they would not be opposed to the union at Raven Software if it was recognized. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this union, but I just wanted to include that because, I mean, we saw a lot from Activision this week. We really did. Not all of it was good, as you could tell. Next up, 3 games were released this week: Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, I'm going to start with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands because this one kind of shocked me. I thought this game was not going to be reviewed well by critics. I thought it was just going to be a cash grab on the Borderlands series, but turns out it actually reviewed decently. Now, you could take a look at the fan reviews, and it wasn't the greatest, but, you know, I'm actually shocked that this game got reviewed as well as it did. This is not a game that I'm going to get, as I'm not a fan of the Borderlands series. I just don't play the games. But if you're a fan of the Borderlands series, probably check this one out. You might like it better than you think. Now, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, you knew this one was going to review well because it's a Nintendo first-party game, and most of the time those games review great, and this is no exception. This is definitely one where if you're a Kirby fan, you definitely want to check this out. If you're a fan of Nintendo, you definitely want to check this out. If you're just a fan of great video games, definitely check this out. This is going to be one that I'm checking out. And I'm also going to check out Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, I know the reviews were kind of hit and miss with Ghostwire Tokyo, but I think it was a little expected considering the kind of game that it is. And I definitely want to check it out because it definitely is a game that might interest me. But if you want to check out Ghostwire Tokyo, just go right ahead. Don't worry about the reviews. With a game like this, I feel like the reviews shouldn't matter. What matters is, do you like it or not? And that definitely sounds like what's been going on with Ghostwire Tokyo. So those 3 games were released and wasn't too bad. Next up, we got an update on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. We got a release window for the game, which is coming out in spring of 2023. So we now have a release window for the game. Not a release date, a release window. But we knew that this game was going to be delayed, and now we have a new release window for it. And this is one where Sir Meliodas is really excited for this game. He really cannot wait to get his hands on it. And if you're a fan of DC, if you're a fan of the Suicide Squad, and you're just waiting for this game to come out, don't be shocked if there's new information for it in the next few months, now that we finally have a release window that shows that they are comfortable with where they're at. And we could see this game, could see more of this game coming very soon. Next up, Godfall, a PS5 launch title that has been exclusive to the PlayStation 5 for the past 2 years, is now coming to Steam and Xbox in April. And I don't know how big this is. I just wanted to mention this because this was a PlayStation 5 exclusive at launch. They talked about how this game was not going to be able to run on anything else but the PlayStation 5. Well, it looks like it could be run on other consoles. But really, the problem with this game was a lot of people just complained it was boring. And there wasn't really a whole lot to do in Godfall. So I don't know if people are going to be picking up this game. Probably not. But, you know, just a little bit of an interesting story. So Godfall coming to Steam and Xbox in April. This next game that got announced, I was a little shocked by. A new Ghostbusters 4 versus 1 game is in the works. Now, this one is coming out late 2022, and it's being done by the same developers that made the Friday the 13th game and Predator Hunting Grounds. Yeah, this is a very interesting game because you're talking a 4 versus 1 where you're either taking control of a Ghostbuster or you're taking control of a ghost. And I feel like it could work, but I'm not sure if it will work. It's really something where you have to see what happens with this game, and I just do not know. Now, the problem is the fact that Friday the 13th and Predator Hunting Grounds, when those games launched, didn't really launch the best. They didn't have the best launches, and I don't know if that's going to happen with this Ghostbusters game as well. But you know what? New Ghostbusters game in the works, and we'll see what happens with it. And our last bit of gaming news today, CD Projekt Red has announced that they are working on a new Witcher game. Oh my god, this is absolutely amazing. I mean, we all know how great The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was, and it's going to be a new protagonist in this game. They released this image of a medallion in the snow. People have been trying to figure out what that medallion means. Now, I never played The Witcher. I have not played any of the games, but KB has played The Witcher before, and this is what she thinks that it's going to have something to do with Ciri, especially with all the snow that was on the ground, because, and this is coming from her, we know she's going to try and defeat the Wild Hunt, and they destroy worlds by encasing them in ice. Now, she also said that there is a rumor going around that it might be a Linux medallion, and that she finds it more likely that a cat witcher uses a Linux instead of a domestic cat. This is what's really going to be interesting. What's going on with this game, and really who the new protagonist is, whether it is Ciri or it's somebody else. And one more thing I want to add about this game. Just one more thing. CD Projekt Red has said that there will not be any crunch with this game. That was one of the big issues that we had with Cyberpunk 2077, where we had all this reports of crunch happening with Cyberpunk 2077, and it did not lead to a great launch to the game. But now we have a new Witcher game in the works. You know people are going to be excited about it, and really, people are just not going to be patient when waiting for information on this game. You just know they're not. And yeah, so a lot of news happened this week. Not all of it was good, but we definitely got some great news out of this week. And as always, I am Diggs Gaming, and we will see you guys next time.